Hello again, it's Robert talking about the Pathscape Create software. And today we're going to discuss how to create looks. So let's get right into it. We open up the software here. I have an empty project file. And the first thing I'm going to do is just very simply add in an 8-bit intensity fixture right there. So I'm done adding the fixtures, and then very quickly I'm going to just add a static look. We're going to go over static looks, dynamic looks, and timeline looks. But let's just do a static look for now, and we'll just drop it into the project space as you would. And because we know that we only have intensity control, we only have the ability to set the intensity of this white light, this 8-bit white light. So if we hit this button, it takes it to full. Hit this button, it takes it to about half, and we can black it out. So if I had a number of fixtures, so let's just add in an array of intensity fixtures like this. When I go to edit this look, I can take them all to full, and then there are these handy tools on the side here. So I can select the odd ones and take them to half intensity, and we get checkerboard sort of look. Or I could use a selection, random selection, and take some of them out. And now we have a Tetris. So we've covered intensity. Now let's make it a little bit more interesting, and we will add in a tunable white light. And we'll just drop that in there. And now when I go to edit, I have a new control here that gives me the color temperature of the lights. So let's take them to full. And then now I can move this slider and make it cooler or warmer. So let's make it even a little bit more interesting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to add in an RGB fixture. When we go to look at the static look, we now have new controls. So we can take all the lights to full. If there's tunable whites, we can tune them. And if there's colored lights, we can actually adjust the color. You can also look at different methods of picking colors. Hue, saturation, and intensity, or standard RGB color picker, or stock colors. So if I just select my RGB fixture and I choose a color that I really like, say this peach, I could then add it to my palette of colors, and then now I have that. So if I had two different RGB fixtures, and I decided this one needs that exact color, then I can just pull it out of my palette like that. There are even more controls, and I'll just dabble into that just for a moment, just so you can see what's going on. If we were to add in an intelligent fixture, in this case a very light 2500 spot, and I threw that in, I can edit all of the parameters of the 2500 spot in a static look. Now, later on, we're going to get into dynamic looks, and you can't edit all the pan tilt parameters. But here, I can actually ask all of my lights to go to full. The ones that can go to red will go to red. And then with the show more parameter here, I can actually pan and tilt this light. So if I had to put it onto like a podium or a fountain in a static look, I could put it onto that by moving the pan and tilt parameters and then choosing a color. There's other, you could also add in gobos. You can iris the fixture, change its edge and zoom. All the parameters are available, and there's thousands and thousands of fixtures available for download online that have the profiles already built. So I've opened up this building here, which has a whole bunch of LEDs above each of the windows. And it's going to look great at night. So let's just add a static look into here right now. And I'm just going to drop my static look right there on the street. And now using all of these tools, I'm going to select all of the lights, take them to full. And that makes them white. And then I'm going to do a very patriotic thing here. I'm going to select these rows of lights here. I'm holding down the command key to select multiple lights. And you can guess what we're going to do here. We're going to make red and white, and then this top corner here we're going to make blue. And we're going to call this look flag. Now on the right hand side here you'll see some of the properties. So I've typed in the name flag, and the one that's probably of most interest is the fade time. So when I set this to a 5-second fade time and I go to the off look, it will fade out, and the on look, it will take 5 seconds to fade into its look. Now the Create software gets much more exciting when we start adding in dynamic looks. Just throw that down there on the street, and immediately it pulls from our canned list of effects, and it's doing the color sequence. And if you're not inspired, you could just hit this little random eyes button up here, and it will change all of the parameters for you. So it's gone to 3 with a different step and a fade time, and it changes to different colors. It changes all of the parameters just randomly. So you can just keep your eyes on the building and go, oh, that's very pretty, I'll keep that. So some of the other stock ones that we might want to look at, this is just a halo that is centered on the building. In a previous video on setting up spaces, I talked about selecting the space and defining the pixel grid. That is how this color sequence halo knows to start from the center. You might want to filter down and say, I just want fire looking effects. So we have magma flow, and we have brimstone, and we have lava. Reset my filter here. I can then say rotating. So then we have revolution between 2 different colors. So I can pick a red and I can pick a blue. And then we have rotating across our building. Let's change the loop time down to like 2 seconds. It'll be really quite dynamic. And we can also make it a very smooth transition between those colors. Change the direction. Let's clear our filter out now again, and let's look at just some of the organic effects. Cold water. Radioactive decay, I like this one. Shimmer. Lots and lots to choose from, and every one that you choose, there's the ability to change the parameters. So let's speed this one up, for instance, and double the density. And some of the effects you'll see will have the word chase in them. And when you do a chase, as I spoke about in the fixtures video, when you look at the fixtures, they all have an order to them. So I have set these all up so that everybody in each column uses the same order. So these are all effects order 8. So when you have a chase and a very specific effects order, then you get a very predictable result. One of the other dynamics looks you can get is to play video across the pixel matrix. I imported this video of a bunch of paint flying around. And with these sort of organic things, it's very difficult to have a geometric or mathematical dynamic look that would give you this result. So now that I've added the color blob media in, whenever I do a new dynamic look, you will see my media in here. And this is a very low resolution version of that video, and it will just loop. And you can have it move forward, backwards, or bounce. You can reflect it so that it's whichever side of the building you want it on, the greens in this case. Now, if there was only a portion of the video that you wanted to look at over and over again, what you can do is you can actually add in a timeline look. And when you add in the timeline look, it takes all of the spaces and it drops them as different rows in your timeline editor. So then you can take your video effect, in my case the color blobs, and just drop that down onto a space, and this will be the whole video. And I can then sample the portion of the video that I like. It's actually the beginning I like. And then I can just trim that down to its desired length, and then the video will just loop. So now we're in a timeline look. Let's look at what I've done with this building. If I turn on the spaces, I can see I have this space here, which is called the right side of the building, and this is the left side of the building, and then there's the whole project space. Now I don't really want to look at the spaces, but I needed them to populate up these different lines. So let's have a look. Let's just move this off to the side. So if I drop the radar look down here and I start playing it, you see it does it on the whole building. But if I want it symmetrical left and right, I can actually drop this down on the left side of the building and drop another one down on the right side of the building. I'll delete this one. And now when we look at it, it might be more interesting if I take the one on the left side of the building and change its direction. So let's make this a little bit longer, 15 seconds. And if we go back to the beginning, they're offset a little bit. But now I have granular control. So knowing that it's a loop time of 2 seconds, let me just zoom in here a little bit. And what I can say is the left side of the building should be 180 degrees or half a cycle different. So now I actually have the symmetrical pattern working nicely for us like this. And then I could select them both and choose less brash colors like this. And now we have something that really looks quite cool. And then we can bring in the blob effect after this. Tighten that right up. And when it's done doing this blue-red sweep around the building, it can crossfade into the full building playing the video. So a lot for you to dig in on this one. The best way to do it is just go in and start doing it on your own project. So thank you very much for joining me to have a look at looks. Now go out and create something beautiful.